Tom Hanks has spent decades earning the title of America's dad, the most trusted face in Hollywood, the man who could do no wrong. But right now, he's fighting a battle that has nothing to do with his acting and everything to do with his survival. Because while you've been watching his movies and admiring his kindness, a coordinated campaign of lies, fake news, and vicious attacks has been destroying his reputation, one fabricated headline at a time. The man who brought us Forrest Gump and Woody is now being targeted by forces that want to tear down everything he represents. And what they're doing to him will shock you. Here's something that'll blow your mind. Tom Hanks didn't become the target of internet hate because he did something wrong. He became the target precisely because he did everything right. Think about it. In a world where celebrities are constantly getting canceled, arrested, or exposed for scandals, Tom Hanks remained untouchable. Clean reputation, stable marriage, charitable work, beloved by millions. And that's exactly what made him dangerous to certain groups online. The conspiracy theorists and misinformation peddlers needed someone with maximum impact, someone whose downfall would send shockwaves through American culture. They couldn't go after controversial figures because nobody would care. But Tom Hanks? Destroying America's dad would be the ultimate prize. So they made him their primary target, launching attack after attack designed to chip away at everything he'd built over 4 decades in Hollywood. What started as random internet trolling soon became something much darker. Organized campaigns began flooding social media with fabricated stories, doctored images, and completely false accusations. The goal wasn't just to hurt Tom Hanks. It was to prove that even the most beloved public figures could be brought down with enough lies repeated often enough. Then came the nuclear option. Fake news sites started publishing completely fabricated arrest reports that looked disturbingly real. The most vicious of these claimed the BBC had reported Tom Hanks was arrested on over 100 counts of possession of illegal materials involving minors. The headlines were designed to be so shocking, so devastating, that people would share them before fact-checking. These weren't amateur hit jobs either. The fake articles included realistic-looking BBC logos, professional formatting, and enough detail to fool people scrolling through social media. Within hours, the fabricated stories were spreading across Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram like wildfire. Thousands of people shared the links, believing they were sharing legitimate news about a major Hollywood scandal. But here's the truly sinister part. Even after fact-checkers debunked these stories, even after the BBC themselves confirmed the articles were completely fake, the damage was done. Screenshots of the headlines continued circulating. People who'd seen the fake news but missed the corrections continued believing the lies. And Tom Hanks found himself in the impossible position of having to defend against accusations that never existed in the first place. The psychological impact was devastating. Imagine waking up to discover millions of people believe you've committed the most heinous crimes possible, based on completely fabricated evidence. That's what Tom Hanks faced, and it was just the beginning. Just when you thought it couldn't get worse, 2024 brought a whole new level of violation. Scammers discovered they could use artificial intelligence to clone Tom Hanks's voice with terrifying accuracy. They started creating fake advertisements where an AI version of Tom promoted miracle diabetes cures, sketchy investment schemes, and dangerous medical treatments. The technology was so advanced that even close friends might not immediately recognize the voice as fake. These AI-generated ads flooded the internet, targeting vulnerable people with health problems who trusted Tom Hanks's voice and reputation. Desperate diabetics, cancer patients, and elderly Americans were being scammed using his stolen identity, Tom had to issue public warnings, practically begging his fans not to fall for the fake advertisements. Can you imagine how violated he must have felt? Not only were criminals stealing his voice and likeness, but they were using his reputation to harm the exact people he'd spent his career trying to help. The man who'd always been protective of his fans was now watching helplessly as scammers exploited that trust. The AI voice cloning represented something even more disturbing than fake news articles. Anyone could now create seemingly authentic content of Tom Hanks, saying literally anything. The technology had advanced to the point where reality itself became questionable. How do you fight back against an enemy that can perfectly mimic your voice? Meanwhile, his official social media accounts became war zones. Every Instagram post, every Twitter update, every public appearance was immediately flooded with hate comments, conspiracy theories, and vile accusations. The coordinated nature of these attacks was obvious. Accounts with random usernames would post identical copy-paste messages within minutes of each other. The comments weren't just cruel, they were strategically designed to drive away normal fans. Families who'd grown up watching Tom Hanks movies found his social media pages filled with such toxic content that they stopped following him altogether. The hate campaign was working. They were successfully isolating him from his fan base by making his online presence too toxic to engage with. What made this especially heartbreaking was seeing how it affected his interaction with genuine fans. Tom had always been known for his warmth and accessibility, often responding to fan messages and sharing personal moments. But the constant barrage of hate forced him to become more guarded, more distant. The attacks weren't just hurting him, they were robbing his fans of the connection they'd always treasured. Behind every hateful comment was a real person who'd been convinced by lies to despise someone who'd never done anything but try to entertain and inspire them. The misinformation campaign had successfully weaponized regular people against an innocent man. While fighting these public attacks, Tom was simultaneously battling a very real and very serious health crisis that most people knew nothing about. His type 2 diabetes, diagnosed back in 2013, had become a daily struggle that required constant monitoring, strict dietary control, and the ever-present fear of complications. The disease wasn't just about managing blood sugar levels. It was affecting his energy, his ability to take on physically demanding roles, and his overall quality of life. Every meal required careful calculation. Every day brought the risk of dangerous blood sugar spikes or crashes. The man who'd once transformed his body for roles like Castaway in Philadelphia now had to be incredibly careful about any physical changes. But here's what makes the timing so cruel. While Tom was privately managing a chronic illness that could literally kill him if not properly controlled, online trolls were spreading fake stories about his health, creating additional stress that could actually worsen his condition. Stress is a major factor in diabetes management, and the constant barrage of false accusations was potentially putting his life at risk. The irony was devastating. The same people spreading fake health scares about Tom Hanks were potentially contributing to real health problems. Their lies weren't just damaging his reputation, they were threatening his actual physical well-being. Through all of this chaos, one person stood as Tom's anchor, his wife, Rita Wilson. She didn't just support him emotionally, she became his medical advocate, his dietary watchdog, and his shield against the worst of the online attacks. Rita took charge of his diabetes management with the intensity of a military operation. She monitored his eating habits, reminded him about medication schedules, and researched every aspect of diabetes care, to keep him healthy. When the fake news stories exploded online, Rita became his social media filter, shielding him from the worst comments while helping him craft responses to the legitimate concerns from real fans. Rita had survived her own health scare with breast cancer, so she understood the psychological toll that health anxiety could take. She recognized that the stress from the false accusations could literally endanger Tom's life by destabilizing his diabetes. So she made it her mission to create a buffer zone of calm around him. Their partnership became even more crucial during their COVID-19 infection in 2020. As someone with diabetes, Tom was in a high-risk category, and Rita stayed by his side through the entire ordeal, monitoring his symptoms and making sure his blood sugar remained stable, even while fighting the virus. She literally helped save his life. The combined assault of fake news, AI impersonation, and social media harassment extracted a price that went far beyond hurt feelings. Tom's team had to hire additional security, invest in legal action against the worst offenders, and completely overhaul their social media strategy. The financial cost ran into hundreds of thousands of dollars, but the emotional cost was even higher. Friends noticed Tom becoming more withdrawn, more cautious about public appearances, more guarded in interviews. The man who'd always been generous with his time and attention had to become selective about his interactions, never knowing which fan encounter might be secretly recorded and manipulated. His family suffered too. His children found themselves defending their father against accusations they couldn't even repeat in polite company. Rita dealt with secondary harassment from people who blamed her for covering up crimes that never happened. The entire Hanks family became collateral damage in a war they never asked for. Projects were affected as well. Some brands became hesitant to work with Tom, not because they believed the accusations, but because they didn't want to deal with the online toxicity that followed him everywhere. The lies were starting to impact his career in very real ways. Tom's response to all this hatred revealed exactly why the attacks were so misguided in the first place. Instead of lashing out or hiring attack dogs to fight back, he took the high road. He issued calm, factual statements debunking the worst lies. He warned his fans about the AI scams without attacking the people who'd fallen for them. He showed grace under pressure that only proved his character. Working with fact-checkers and law enforcement, Tom's team began systematically documenting and reporting the fake content. They couldn't stop every lie, but they could create a paper trail that might eventually lead to consequences for the worst offenders. The fight was slow and frustrating, but it was the right fight. He also used his platform to educate people about media literacy, teaching fans how to spot fake news, recognize AI-generated content, and verify information before sharing it. Even while under attack, Tom was trying to make the world a little bit smarter and more resistant to misinformation. Perhaps most importantly, he refused to let the attacks change who he was fundamentally. He continued supporting charities, continued treating people with kindness, continued being the same decent human being he'd always been. The trolls wanted to break him, but they only made his character shine brighter by contrast. The truth is simple and heartbreaking. Tom Hanks became the target of coordinated lies precisely because he represents everything good about American entertainment. In an era of cynicism and scandal, his basic decency made him dangerous to people who profit from chaos and division. They couldn't find real dirt on him, so they invented it. They couldn't break his spirit, so they tried to break his reputation. But here's what the hate campaign ultimately proved. You can fabricate headlines, clone voices, and flood comment sections with lies. But you can't fake 4 decades of consistent character. Tom Hanks's real legacy isn't just his movies or his awards. It's the way he's handled this assault on his reputation, with dignity, grace, and an unshakable commitment to truth. The attacks continue, but so does Tom. At 68, battling diabetes, fighting off AI impersonators and fake news creators, he's still showing up, still creating, still being kind to people who don't deserve his kindness. That's not just admirable. That's heroic in the truest sense of the word. And maybe that's the real story here. Not the lies people tell about Tom Hanks, but the truth he continues to live every single day, despite those lies. In a world that seems designed to tear down good people, he's still standing, still fighting, still proving that decency isn't weakness, it's strength. The next time you see a shocking headline about Tom Hanks, remember this: the most shocking thing about him might just be that in Hollywood, in America, in 2025, genuine goodness still exists. And some people hate him for exactly that reason.